Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real 1% podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. And today we got my man Justin, a fellow Army veteran. He joined as a 13 Mike, MLRS rocket artillery guide. And he also started a military service newsletter called Service and Sacrifice, where he writes about military and veteran related topics. So, without further ado, we're looking to change the narrative, share stories and perspectives on life after the military. But, Justin, appreciate you being here, man. I know you're freezing up in Connecticut, but how you doing other than that?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. So let's dive in. And first question I want to ask you is, what prompted you to join the army when you're coming up? Younger guy. What was it for you?
Yeah, so I was 19, and I wasn't really doing much. I did horrible in high school. For some reason, thought things would be different in college. I like failed out of my community college, um, and I was scrolling on Facebook one day, and I saw my buddy join the Marines, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool! Like blow stuff up and get paid." And I just went. They had like the this recruiting station that had like all the branches in one type of thing.
Yeah.
And I just went to go talk to a Marine recruiter at first, and they took too long to like get people to trading. It was like a year out, so I was like, it's too much. Yeah,
So Army was next. Army was right next door. Rolled in. What they have to say? Ready to go?
yeah. It's funny. So I did the three like Marine pull up tests or whatever you have to do to get into it, and then I told the dude I was like, I want to do infantry. Like, how quickly can you get me out? And he's like, it's like we're super small branch. And then when I was asking him questions, I was like, why you guys over the army next door? And he said, oh well, he said the typical thing, which like every Marine says. He's like, well, when you get out, you're always a Marine. And like I was 19, and I was like, I was like, what does that mean? Like, and like I get it now, but back then I was like, that's not. You got to like sell me, dude. So I went next door, and the army guy was like, "Oh, we have like 100 jobs. You can pick any of these jobs with like the lowest ASVAB score." Because again, I wasn't, studying for this test.
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, let's just start talking."
So the Marines didn't try to make you like eat any crayons or nothing crazy? Like nothing like that.
No,
Nothing was part of that. So and it seemed like they didn't really try to sell you. Just said once a Marine, always a Marine. Being 19, you don't really know what the hell that means unless you got family in it and that it's all prestige and everything like that. I'm surprised they
yeah,
didn't really say something about the uniforms. Some people are big on that. They always talk about their uniforms are better, this, that, and the fourth. But okay, here or there. So you get into the army. Did you even know what your job? What did they tell you about your job when you picked that job? Did you know what you're getting into, or kind of went in blind?
yeah. So I took the ASVAB. I got like 10 options. Um, I originally was gonna pick Cab Scout, which is funny
Okay.
because everyone in the army like makes fun of Cab Scouts. I don't know why, but it's just like a thing. And it sounded really cool, right? You're like a forward observer, and the guy sold it great. He was like, "There's like six of you, and you have like super tactical equipment, and you go back to the infantry dudes." I'm like, that sounds pretty badass. Like,
Yeah.
and my family at the time was like, "Oh, that sounds dangerous. So like, please don't pick that one." So then I saw this MLRS. Um, they told me the vehicle was bulletproof, which is not accurate. It's not. It's
Damn.
not. It's not accurate. So I was like, "This looks cool. You shoot rockets, and like it can like blow villages up." And I was like, "Let's do that one." And they got me out in like 8 weeks.
Okay.
Um, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, in February. Um, and I didn't think it was going to be cold, and it's so cold. It's so cold.
I've, I've only heard. I was gonna say you're coming. You just said you guys got 3 feet of snow or something like that today. So coming from the Northeast to go in Fort Sill, I've heard. I've never been there myself, but I know they say it's quite cold. So you got to experience that firsthand when you went out there, and you went to
Yeah.
basic and you went to AIT there, right? Or did you
Yeah,
go?
I got
Yeah.
stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that overall? Like looking back on it now, what was something that you liked about, the training that you got? What was something that you just didn't stand at all?
I liked it because it was really tough, and I wanted to prove that I could do it.
Okay.
Um, and what I didn't like was, I mean, it sucked. Like, you're not getting any sleep. like they would come in at like 3 a.m. and like flip all our bunks and shit. And you would have you go in your locker and just throw everything on the floor. Um, the fire watch or fire guard where people just waking you up and it's not even your turn.
Oh God.
um,
Yeah.
it was honestly, dude, one of the hardest things for me was the portion of eating, which sounds really weird. Like
I
it
feel
was
you.
my first time in my life where they were like, "This is all you get to eat," and I was starving because we're rucking and we're running, and you're up from 5 a.m. to like midnight, and they couldn't like tell you not to eat the burger and fries, but our drill sergeant was like, "I'm going to make you throw it up if you eat the burger and fries."
No,
So
we got done the same way, dude. I know I've told this story before, but no one in our basic training ate sweets, dude. We weren't allowed to. They'd bring it even when they had the field food, the mermite chow food that have the cakes and everything. Dude, every time it goes straight in the trash. And funny thing is that people actually went dumpster diving for that shit, dude. I can't even make this shit up, dude. They went dumpster diving,
yeah.
they got it all, they found it all in their wall locker. So that's a real thing, man. I don't know what they're doing nowadays. You were back in the day a little bit too, but no, I feel your pain on that, bro. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I had guys that I knew who somehow took like peanut butter packets, like the big long ones,
yeah.
uh, and they stole like a lot. And I remember I was so hungry that I was like, "Yo, like, give me like two of those," and I'm just like, I never thought that I'd be like licking peanut butter out of like a little box thing, but I was starving.
Nah, I feel you. The dude, even in reception at Fort Jackson, they were hiding Nutrigrain bars and like other stuff in the ceiling tiles, dude. That's a real thing, man. I don't know if it's still going around now, but I think the only way you could get food that you might want was to go to church on Sunday and then go to the
Yeah.
DFAC without the drill sergeants and like,
Mhm.
that was
Yeah, I
yeah,
knew a
but
lot of people that went to the LDS church, and they were like, "Oh, there's cookies there and stuff." And like, dude, I was so tired that when they gave us like a few hours of free time, I was like, I just want to sit in peace and quiet and not get yelled at. Like, I
yeah.
just don't want to move.
No, I feel you, dude.
What
Or like yeah. Go
what
ahead.
years were you in?
I was in 2007 to 15.
Okay. Yeah, I was 10 to 13, so there was some overlap there.
Yeah, no, but still similar stories at different bases. So I'm sure people could speak on it. Man, it's crazy looking back on that and telling those stories and like laughing about it now, but it was a struggle when you're going through it, man. I
It's
remember when
rough,
I went
man.
to we graduated basic training and got family day, and my mom, my dad, my brother came up. Dude, we went to Charlie's in the PX. I could only eat half a sandwich, dude. Your stomach
Oh
shrinks,
yeah.
man. You're like you can't even eat it when you get the chance to. So I mean, that's wild, dude. So that's funny looking
Mhm.
back on it now. Where'd you end up going for your first duty station once you got done with all your training?
Dude, it's such a sad story. So I did a basic at Fort Sill, and then you go right to the other side. You do AIT for 4 weeks. It was like one of the shortest AITs. Um, and then they told us, like, as we were finishing AIT, they were like, if you go onto your Army portal profile thing, you can request a duty station. And so my MOS only has like five. It's Fort Lewis, Bragg, um, the ones in Texas, Hood, and then Korea. And I was like,
Okay.
I want Korea so bad. All my boys wanted to go to Korea, so I ran upstairs. I went to go request Korea, and it already had SIL in there for me. And
Dude.
like I went to my AIT instructor, and I was like, "Is there like please, is there anything I can do?" And he's like, "Nah, there's nothing I can do." And all my buddies were like, "Oh, we got Korea. Like we're going to I forgot what the base is called, um, Camp Casey."
Okay, okay.
And I was like, "Damn." So yeah, I was stuck at Fort Sill.
Damn, dude. I knew you were gonna say that as soon as you said it was sad. I was like, man, I'm not even gonna fill in the blank, dude, because I know you're gonna say seals. So, all right, well, at least you got out of what? How was it? Like, what were you doing once you got out of all your training? Like, what were you doing for? Did you have to deploy anywhere, or you just stayed there for the majority of your time?
So I got out of AIT. I don't know if they had this, if you heard of it. They had like a 2 week like help your recruiting station thing out
Yeah,
back
hometown
then.
recruiting. Yeah, you go back and like recruit at your hometown.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got approved for that. I went home for 2 weeks and like chilled with those guys. It was super lax. Um, I told like all like the civilians, I was like, oh yeah, it's super hard. It sucks. They yell at you. And then I had leave for 2 weeks. So I went back home and saw family. So it was a month in total. I didn't exercise at all, which was really stupid. And then I went back to Sil. And dude, honestly, uh, the I didn't deploy anywhere, but the stories of how I didn't deploy are like the most interesting thing about my service time. So I ended
Okay.
up at my unit, and I told you how I really wanted to go to Korea, right? And I got there, and my platoon sergeant was like, "Hey, we have good news. Every 9 months, this unit goes on rotation to Korea." And I was like, "Oh, sick! This is perfect, dude." And about 5 months into that, they, they were like, "Ah, we're not doing that anymore. Like, we don't rotate for whatever reason."
Damn, you looking forward to it 4 months out, and they're like, "Nah, we're not going."
Yeah, they because all my buddies who were there, who were like specialists at the time, were like, "Oh, Korea's sick. Like, we're all partying and getting drunk, and like we would like take trips to like the southern area of South Korea, and like there's all these like hiking spots." And I was like, "This is awesome. Like, I wanna travel." Um, and then they were like, "Nah, never mind." So
So what happened after what was the next story that you had to go through after the first 5 months of not going? What was next?
yeah, so that was Korea, and then about a year in, it was right when well, I'll leave that. So yeah, a year in, we got emergency orders, which I didn't know at the time are different than regular orders because you don't get to go back home to see your family. Like that's how quick the orders drop. That we were going to be QRF for Camp Buring in Kuwait.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, sick. We're going to be QRF. We're going to be in our gear all day with our weapons loaded, where we can shoot out and go help dudes who are getting ambushed right on the border over there for Iraq. I was like, this is sick. I'm going to get a combat patch. Like, and we trained for like a month, like really hard, like rucking. They were throwing CX gas at us as we were rucking. We went to the range all the time. Our gear was literally loaded on the Connex, which was on a boat already. I already said goodbye to my family. I called them. I was like, "Hey, I'll be back in like a year." And then I think it was like a week and a half before we were supposed to go. We had a meeting with the colonel, and he said it's been canceled because that's when Obama went on the news and was like, "No more troops in Iraq. Everyone's coming home right now." And they were like, "You're not
Damn.
going." And so I was pissed because one, the training sucked, like, and then two, I was like, "This is like, let's just go, let's just do it." So
So you
that
should
was the
you they
second.
just never want you to leave Fort Sill, dude. You should be living there right now. You should still stay. You should be right you should be there now, man.
That was the second one, and then the last two. There's like four stories that I'll try to run through quick for you. The third
You
one
good.
was the unit next to us in the next like battalion got orders to go to Afghanistan, and I was like sick, and I heard through one of my buddies that you can volunteer to go with other units, and I really didn't like my current unit because our MOS did this thing where we went from uh, they went from four batteries in a battalion to three, and so they shrunk they merged everybody. So my unit essentially got disbanded. We all separated to the other batteries, and my buddy was like, "Yeah, you can like go volunteer, and they'll take you." And so I went to my platoon sergeant. I was like, "Hey, can I transfer to that unit and go to Afghanistan?" He was like, "No, half the unit's not even going because everyone's back from Iraq, and we're just like, there's too many troops in the army sitting around." I think this was in 2000 like 11ish. I don't know if you remember that. Um,
Yeah, there were people getting, like, put out, I think, at that time.
yes,
Certain
they
people,
were like
yeah.
mass chaptering people. Like my buddy got kicked out who was in for 5 years because he was like a little overweight, even though he passed his PT test. So they were mass kicking people out. They were like, "There's no way you're going." And then the last story is about 8 months before my contract was ended, I broke my foot and had to have surgery.
Damn.
And my unit got orders to go to UAE which is United Arab Emirates for people listening. And it was just like to watch Syria in case they were, feeling froggy. But they were going to like the mall in Dubai and shit. Like it was not
Yeah,
like a real
yeah.
deployment.
Where they went to Camp Red Leg?
I don't know what it was called, to be
I'm
honest
pretty
with
sure they
you.
did.
But yeah, they looked like they were having fun. They were going to the mall. They were going to like water parks and shit. Um,
Oh yeah.
and so I didn't have to go. I would have had to like extend my contract,
Yeah.
and my foot was still like I couldn't like barely walk on it, and I did not want to go with my unit because I didn't like them. They turned down my promotion to corporal. I was like, I'm ready to get out. So that was the four stories about how I just didn't go.
So you could have saw the world, but in all reality, you just saw Fort. Where is that? In Lawton, Oklahoma? Lawton, right?
Yeah, dude. And like, you know how they say like U.S. Army bases are usually around towns where there's not much going on.
Oh,
Lawton is just like
absolutely.
Lawton is not fun.
I was at yeah, Fort Campbell wasn't too bad. You're like 45 minutes from Nashville, but I know a lot of other
Yeah.
bases like you're not really even Fort Carson, you're like 45 minutes or so to Denver, but yeah, like Fort Leonard Wood, like Fort Sill, I don't really know about those spots, but I guess I got the expert on the other line right now, so you could
Yeah.
well you got all the spots, but no, Dubai was cool. I worked there as a contractor, but yeah, you're like if they were in Camp Red Leg, which they disbanded or they shut that base down, it was on like a huge Emirati Air Force base, and you're literally like 15-minute taxi ride to the Dubai Mall. So you saw
Okay.
your other colleagues and all that doing. It's nice there, man. You would have been chilling at the water park, going to the Burj Khalifa, and eating good and just hanging out. But so you broke your foot, you're ready to get out. What did your mindset and like what was your mindset like to leave the military? Did you have a plan? Were you just ready to get out and figure it out when you got out? Like what was going through your head at
Yeah.
that point?
So I was on the fence for a while, as I'm sure most people are, because it's one, it's terrifying, and two, like your unit makes it even more terrifying. Um, so I went to see retention. Like I don't remember when you had to do it, like 8 months out or 6 months out, like everybody has to do. And they told me the list of jobs that I'm qualified for, and the options were stay in the same job, which I didn't want to do because our points were maxed out at 798 for like over a year because
Yeah.
we were such a small MOS that they were like, unless somebody dies or retires, you're not getting promoted to sergeant. So uh, that or infantry, which I was like, I'm not going from artillery to infantry. The two like constantly clash. There was 13 Bravo, which is cannon artillery, and then there was one that really stuck out to me. It was 68. I want to say Delta. It was surgery tech, surge
Okay.
tech. So you set
Okay.
up the emergency room surgery with all the tools and everything. You work in scrubs. You're not like doing PT at 5 a.m. with your unit. And I really wanted to do this. I told the sergeant, I was like, I will re-enlist right now if you can get me this surge tech job. Um, and long story short, she said these positions are reserved for civilians first to get them into the military because we'd rather have more people in if we could keep you in. And I was like, what? So,
Man, okay.
um, she said, check back. I checked with her like every couple weeks for 6 months, and I was like, hey, like I'm about to get out, and she was like, still full, still full. And then finally, in a last ditch effort, I was like, can I re-enlist in my own job? Um, at 13 Mike, and can I pick Fort Lewis, Washington, so I can see like the West Coast at least and get out of Sill? And she was like, yes, I will. This is what she wrote up in my contract. Um, I reenlist. I go to Korea for a year. I got that in my contract, and then when I come back from Korea, I go to Fort Lewis. And I was like, yeah, that's sick, like perfect. She wrote it up. She was like, I'll call you when it's done to sign it. I go back. Dude, I don't know what happened. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist of the military, but either my first sergeant called her or she called my first sergeant and told her like, oh, it's in the bag. He's gonna reenlist. And I walked into the building And my first sergeant was like, he's like, "Hey, I heard you're re-enlisting," and I was like, "Oh," like I'm talking to her about it, and they were like, "Well, just know that you're going to UAE first, and then you can go to Korea and Fort Lewis." And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, our deployment orders supersede your contract that you want to re-enlist," because they wanted me to go because they were pissed I was getting out. And I was like, "Oh, well, now that you mentioned that, I didn't actually sign, so I'm not going to now."
Yeah,
So,
that's wild, man. So,
yeah.
what you when you change gears and start thinking, when did you start thinking about what your next mission was when you got out the military? Or did you just like kind of play it by ear?
Well, the plan was I started studying like 6 months before I got out to be a cop because my dad
Okay.
was a cop, and he was like, "Yeah, it's guaranteed. Like, I'll get you a spot somewhere in New York. You just have to pass the test." So I was studying for the test. It was basically guaranteed. And then I broke my foot, and the foot doctor was like, "You'll probably never run again. And
Damn.
if you do, you'll have a limp." Which luckily I don't have a limp anymore, and I can run. Um, but I told my it took years like to walk properly, and I couldn't do it. And then I just went back to school. I did the math in my head because everyone kept telling me like, "Oh, like what are you gonna do without your guaranteed paycheck?" Which at the time for a specialist was like, I think it was $1,000 a week. It was like, or $1,000 a paycheck. So it was like $2,000 a month. I did the math out in my head because Connecticut's a high cost of living area. I was like, the school I'm going to is going to give me 2,000 tax free a month. So I just made my paycheck right there.
Yeah.
Um, I know I'm getting some form of disability from my foot, so it's like I'll make it work,
Right.
and it did. So
How well you being a lower enlisted, a junior enlisted soldier? How did you know about the VA and the disability? Did you know about that before you got out of active duty? Did someone coach you say, "Hey, you got to go to your VA appointment"? What was it like for you, like getting that initial rating?
yeah, so I mean, I talked to a bunch of my sergeants who were like retiring, and I know they were hurt, and they said like, "Hey, like make sure you have documentation, and like if something hurts, go to sick call." And I knew a lot of guys that didn't do that,
Okay.
and everybody wants to be tough, which is cool. But then when it comes time to like get paid, you don't have documentation, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like I hurt my ankle, I hurt my knee really bad running. I don't know what happened, but I just documented everything. And then when you go through your ACAP thing, you see the doctor who like checks your rating. I went there. I was like, yeah, everything hurts, and they check with like they have like a little like the math protractor thing that they use on your
Yeah,
shoulder
yeah.
to see like
They
how
do a
much
range
range
of
you get.
motion. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so I did that thing, and then they had like a skeleton where they were like, write down what hurts, and I was like, shoulder hurts, knee hurts, and I did not expect anything to come of it because they were like, oh, it takes like years, and like I heard like horror stories of like Vietnam vets still not having it yet, so I was like, it's gonna take forever. My shit got approved like crazy fast. I don't know
yeah.
how. Maybe because it was cut and dry, like surgery, scar, limp, percentage type thing. Um,
Right.
and that was it. I got out and I just got a packet one day with like 1,000 pages, and they were like, "Here's why you're getting paid." I was like, "Oh, sick."
I mean, at least you have the people helping you, man. Like, and then you always hear the horror stories. I mean, like even like you said, leaving the military, they were probably trying to like use scare tactics to try to keep you in or say like, what are you going to do on the other side? And really, I mean, no matter if you do 20 years or 2 years, you got to still figure out what you're going to do after the military, unless you're just going to sit there on a fixed income of disability and retirement, So, like you said, you use the GI Bill. If you went to school in New York, you would have got paid like $4 grand a month. You're in Connecticut making
Yeah.
making your specialist check, just going to school and learning, and then you got your disability going for you, so which is good because I mean I was an NCO at the time and I didn't even go to that appointment, dude. I don't blame anybody but myself realistically, because that's like in the VA, what the hell is that going to do for me, so good for you to like stay on that and take care of yourself, because you're right, dude. You probably know people that got the military that never got anything documented, and they're the ones hurting at this point because you have nothing to show for it. It's not about being hard and a badass. It's a matter of just getting what you deserve for putting your life on the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So like I literally have a buddy who was airborne. Something happened with his landing and he like somehow broke his collarbone. I don't know how it works, like the impact. And he was like, nah, I'm not gonna go get a percentage. And the rules kind of changed. But back then they told us if you don't say something hurts and try to claim it and you get out, like that's it. You can't a year later be like, oh, like actually my knee is hurting. Now it's different, I believe. I think you can file like whatever. So I was really scared because I was like, I'm gonna say like my knee hurts and my shoulder hurts, and I, from the way I understood it, if they say no to something, like okay, well at least I tried. And yeah, I knew a lot of guys who get out and they just don't collect because they're like, I don't need it, and that's fine. Like I don't technically need it to like live, but like it's extra vacation money. I put it in my savings account if I need to fix something on the house. Like if you say you're supposed to get 500 tax free a month, right? Which is on the lower end. Like most vets can get way more than 500, and you get out and you still have 50 years to live. Dude, that's like hundreds of thousands of tax free dollars. It doesn't make sense to not collect.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely,
Yeah.
dude. You're right. And there are a lot of man, my old neighbor. He's an MP for like 20 something years. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, all right. I guess your body's not that good after that many years of driving around or but,
Yeah.
I mean, to each his own, I guess, but you're right. I guess they have gotten better at, trying to do stuff after the military. Some people used to say that about sleep apnea. You can't get sleep apnea when you get out. I got mine when I got out, but you have to have the right documentation. You have to have a medical nexus. You have to have it, writing and saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is probably secondary to PTSD or anxiety or whatever the case may be. So there are ways around it. Don't let people just write it off so easy. That way they don't have to try to go out and get it for themselves. But I'm glad that you
Yeah.
got yours. How did you start thinking about doing the newsletter?
So I actually I had a call with Jenna from the military veterans Facebook group, um, millennial veterans, and dude, so I've been out like 10 years, 11 years, and I wrote kind of a little bit about it. Like the first few years that I was out, I really didn't want anything to do with like veterans, and I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to go to like my veterans group at the school because I dude, like I don't know what it was. I'm figuring it out now as I'm older, but like getting out and like seeing the haircuts because vets get with the haircut. You have people with high fades and like seeing like the grunt style shirts and like their deployment ACU backpacks. Like I just didn't want to be around it.
Yeah.
Um, because like I just had so many negative like memories of my unit. And so I just like ignored it for a few years. And then like kind of a few years ago, kind of recently, like I just felt like I kept seeing all these stories of like vets like needing help. And I finally like went to the VA for I was like, yeah, it's free. Like I'll get free health insurance, whatever. I don't know what your experience is if you go there. I think it sucks personally. Like A for effort, I appreciate people trying to help, but it's just like not good. And I was like, you know what, dude? Like, if this is one thing that's not good, I should like let people know about all these other things that should be way better. And so I just started writing about it. And then I just kind of went from there.
Did you like writing growing up, or was it something that you just kind of took upon yourself as all those thoughts came in your head?
Um, I'm not sure that I like it. I find it like really relaxing, like just to like zone out and talk about stuff. Um, English was always like one of my strong classes, like write papers and stuff like that. So I just started doing it, and it's kind of like a form of like journaling. So like it's like therapeutic, and I talk about things. I think I have like 15 articles now. I talk about anything that pops up in the news, medical benefits. I wrote about how the barracks down in Texas. I think it's I forgot where Camp Liberty is, Fort Liberty, but the hospital lost heat, so I wrote about that. Like vets in the hospital don't have heat. It's just freaking ridiculous, dude. Like it
Damn.
never ends. The amount of times that the government fails veterans. And then I also kind of put my own personal experience on it, right? Like if I did some collab articles with some buddies who answered questions, and then I answered, based off of their thoughts, right? Like with my own personal experience. So it's been pretty cool, and hopefully people like it. So
So you pretty much left the army with a sour taste in your mouth, to say the least.
yeah, dude, I try to look at both the good and the bad, and I have buddies who are still in, who are like E7s on the E8 list now, which I remember when I was a private, I was like, "Oh, dude, it'd be so cool to be an E7 and have like a whole platoon under you." And now they're those people who are, about to be master sergeants, and I don't know how they do it, dude. Like, good for them because I didn't want to do it,
Yeah.
but they love it, dude. They've been in 15 years. They love their captains, their first sergeants, their units were great, their deployments were great, their MOSs were awesome. Like my buddy's EOD in Washington. And now that you're away from like big army, it's totally different. Like it's completely like big army is way more strict. So I want to be positive and say like 50-50. I enjoyed it and didn't enjoy it. I think I got kind of a shitty end of a stick with being stuck at Sill. Um, Also, my two of my first sergeants and two of my BCs were just like not the greatest. So
No, I
like it's
can relate
cool.
to you, man. I hear you.
Yeah, like it's cool. Like I totally expect a first sergeant to be a ball breaker and yell at you. Like that's part of being in the military. But some of these guys were just like malicious for no reason. And I was young, dude. Like this is actually something I was thinking about for another writing I was gonna do, but like, yeah, I was 20 years old, but in the military, like being a private, it's a whole new world. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're 20 off in college and like becoming an adult stage. I was in like the kid stage of the military, still like learning the ropes. And I just saw a lot of like shady shit. Like friends who had been in 5 years who deployed, they got the triple horn, which was Iraq, Afghanistan, and Djibouti, Africa.
Okay.
Which I don't know. Have you heard of the triple horn?
Nah. Nah, what's
They
that?
call it the triple horn when you do all three. Like you deploy to Afghanistan and Iraq and Africa. I don't know why it's
Okay.
called the triple horn. Um, and they did all these deployments and they went on combat deployments. And then, yes, technically they fail. They're not meeting Army standards by being 10 pounds overweight, even though they're passing the PT test. And and then they kick all these people out. Like they kick these dudes out, and then they tell you every Friday, like if you need, if you're going through a hard time, there's behavioral health right down the road. And then I saw my buddies who deployed go to use it, and dude, like it was just like an odd experience. Like they're like, yeah, go, like go, because they have to tell you to go. And then they'd be late to like training or they'd be late to something and they got like their ass chewed out. And I was like, but you told him he could go. And now you're like making him feel bad because he like saw some crazy shit in Iraq. And it just, dude, like it started clicking in my little 20-year-old brain. I was adding it up through the years. It just something wasn't right. I don't know.
Nah, I feel you on that, dude. Once I got to Germany myself and under new people and under new leadership, I was ready to clock out the army. I still was gonna do my time. I still had a couple years left, but like the people in the military definitely make or break it for you, right? Like you said, people with great first sergeants that make everyone's job easy. People that have a dickhead commander or first sergeant or both, and they make their job a living hell. So the army's just as much as a crapshoot as any other job because you're not guaranteed to have great leadership, I guess. And then when you're that young, or even as an E5, E6, you still can only say so much, right? And then in the
Yeah.
army, I think they use a lot of scared. Some people, not the army in general, some people use scare tactics. They don't think that you're going to go above and over their head, and sometimes you have to do that because you're fighting.
Mm.
You're ultimately fighting for yourself, dude. I mean, you're not going to let someone walk on you. I don't see you as someone that would let someone walk on you and they just try to use that rank as a shield sometimes, and think that that can supersede anything they say or do, and even if they're in the wrong, but they have the rank to, they're just gonna walk on you. But man,
Yeah.
I feel you. I mean, I'm like you. It's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad, but I'd rather focus on the good times than the bad. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's one thing to talk about the bad, but like to harp on that all day, you just have a negative mindset. But I mean, that's the world we live in, dude. You don't get to pick what unit you get to go to, unless you go to special forces, and everyone's on a different, like you said, it's more lax. I was around. You're on a
Yeah.
mostly on a first name basis, or
Yep.
you guys get along a lot better for the most part. They probably have their own falling outs or whatever, but I'm sure it's a lot different than big army and Article 15s and extra duty and all that stuff. But nah, man, I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel it 100%, dude, because I went through it too. So, but
Did you
you
say
know,
what your MOS was? I may have missed it.
nah, I was cooked, dude. The number one, the greatest MLS in the world, bro.
Dude, I have a funny cook story I want to tell you.
What you got?
My one of my drill sergeants was a cook. His name was Drill Sergeant Johnson. Um, it's so funny you said that. And I didn't think like cooks like went on patrol and shit because I don't know like who's gonna cook. And dude, my my drill sergeant was telling us a story. I don't know why he told us a story. I think just to let us know that about like what to think about if you see combat. And he said he went on patrol one day, and to give you like a visual of what he looked like, he was this tall, black dude, super serious, like never blinked. He was just intimidating as shit as a drill sergeant. And he said he went on patrol, and the way he told the story was like very slow and monotone. And he was like, "We went on patrol, we saw like an enemy, and we engaged with them, and then and then like he was like, yeah, there was like small arms fire, blah blah blah." And then somebody asked like what happened, and he just said in like, I mean, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm sure he was like visualizing it. They were like, "What happened?" And he was just like, "We eliminated them." And I was just like, "Oh shit!" Like
It could
that's
happen, dude. Like
pretty badass.
I went on 3 deployments. Didn't really cook to my last one. The first time I was supposed to be the sergeant major's gunner. That didn't pan out, but still, like you said, dude, doesn't matter what your MOS is. You're getting remissioned all the time. We taught people how to draw in Kuwait. We went to Camp Buring. We left Iraq early, like 2 months early, and like a handful of us went to Kuwait, and we
Mm,
taught everyone how to do driver's training and all the like the RG-33 Lima, the Max Pro, the Cayman, all the new MRAPs, dude. We were teaching everybody no matter
fire.
what their MOS was. So like I know people, I don't give a fuck what someone says about a cook or not, because at the end of the day, dude, sometimes the cooks are the ones pulling the trigger. I didn't sign up to kill nobody, to be honest with you, but I know some people love doing that. If we had to do that, like if you had to do it, you'd make it happen, just like Drill Sergeant Johnson did, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You learn how to shoot a gun before you learn how to fry an egg, dude. You go to basic training and you go through all that stuff, but in the military, they always shit on cooks, MPs, everything else. But really, you in the biggest gang in the world, dude. The army, the U.S. military is the biggest gang there is, dude. If it
Mm,
came down to it. But nah, man, cooking, dude.
yeah.
I don't miss that in the military.
It's funny you mentioned repurposed training. When we were supposed to go to Camp Buring, we were training as infantry because our artillery only gets used in the beginning of wars where we just like decimate area,
Yeah,
or like in South Korea where we're permanently fixed, like elevated on positions in North Korea where all they have to do is hit a button, but we don't like actively send out HIMARS, or at least back then. Um, so yeah, and dude, speaking of frying an egg, I had to do kitchen KP, dude. Like,
KP, yeah,
dude, I I hated it, dude. It was so freaking hot in those kitchens, dude. And they make you wear the little paper hats.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was
I used to hate wearing that with my
melting
big ass head. I used to hate wearing that big ass head, dude. Shit fall
dude.
off. You gotta like gotta rip a piece of it, and then you gotta do some crazy shit to that hat stick on, dude. When you have a big head.
They made me do it for 2 weeks as we were
Well,
on
damn.
redeployment. And dude, first off, I was sweating so profusely in the kitchen because the ovens were hot as shit. And I was melting the hat. The hat was just like
Yeah.
melting to my head. And so I took it off and they're like, you got to wear it. I'm like, it's soaking wet. Like, what? And I'm just sitting there with my specialist friggin' sign, and like all these basic trainings were like, oh, egg specialist. And no, I was just like, I was probably one of those intimidating like specialists that I was afraid of as a private, because I was like, oh, here's your eggs, like here's your potato, like here's
Oh,
your
you had to go,
sausage.
sir. You had to go do KP and serve the privates, like the basic training privates. Oh,
Yeah, dude, I
damn.
had to. The cooks were cooking, and they were just like sausage, and I was like slapping it. And dude, I remember one time I was sweating so bad. I went down to like get the food, and I just like sweat fell into this kid's plate. And like, I don't think he saw it, but I threw it out. I was like, damn, dude, I'm not giving this private like my sweaty ass, sweaty eggs, dude. So,
I can respect you for that, man. Some type of empathy for not. Yeah, that's fucking. Dude, KP ain't no joke, man. Because depending on where you go, they might have you doing dishes, might be peeling potatoes, might be serving. And like you said, dude, the kitchen's always hot as shit. At least you didn't have to wear cook whites, dude. I used to. I don't think any cook like wearing those cook whites because we'd have to wear the all white uniforms usually to go to the DFAC and work.
okay,
But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, man, I don't miss a DFAC, bro. I don't miss a DFAC, dude. But
Yeah.
what what was the best thing to do at Fort Sill though, dude? Every base has places to go out. You go here, you go there, you go to Kickers or Tippers and Fort Campbell or whatever. Like, what was it at Fort Sill, and like, how far were you from the biggest like city around you, like Oklahoma City or something like that?
Yeah, so I had a tradition. Every Friday I went to the PX, where I don't know if every PX had Charlie's. I'm assuming.
Almost, we
Like,
had, yeah, I think we had a lot of them do.
okay. Yeah, it was my tradition to end my week of making it through another week of this was I would go and get Charlie's, and I would sit there, and that shit was so good. Like, I love it, dude. They opened up one in Connecticut years ago because I think it's a Southern chain, and I go there every now and then, and it just like brings back that feeling of like, oh man, I made it. So I would go there every Friday. Some of the big things were they had coin beer night at this place called Scooters, which was a typical like army bar outside of base. Literally, soldiers would bring a bag of coins. You could get a beer for a penny. So any
Damn.
coin is a beer. People would get absolutely obliterated. And then they would go across the street to this place called Red Dragons, which was a strip club, and they did that like religiously. So
Damn.
I didn't turn 21 until like the last year, so I got to experience that a few times. OKC was about an hour and change north, which was pretty cool. Um, Unfortunately, Dallas to the south was right outside of our travel limit, so you had to get it approved. It was like never approved, so I went once. Um, and that was it, dude. Like, Lawton has a lot of massage parlors, which were just hookers, to be honest with you. And dude, they were literally the windows were boarded up, and my sergeant was. I remember my sergeant told me he's like, yeah, dude, this place that I went to get a haircut because they were way better than the PX, right?
Yeah.
Um, they cut your hair, they like massage oil on your neck. And my sergeant was like, yeah, that place, there's a back room. I was like, what are you talking about? Like they cut your hair. He's like, no, they cut your hair and then they like hint at something and then you go back there. And I was like, nah, dude. Like,
Some rush
there's
hour
no
shit
way.
or something, man. What they got going on?
But yeah, dude, there wasn't much. You hung out with people. To be honest with you, I was so tired. I just chilled. And the weird thing about the military is you work with the only people you know, and after like a 15-hour day, because we did not get out early, I really just wanted some alone time, to be real with you. So
How were the barracks there? Did you have your
so
own
I
room? Did
actually
you have to share a room? How was it at Fort Sill for you?
so I never lived in the barracks.
Okay.
Me and three buddies rented a house really cheap outside of base, which was dope because uh, I heard horror stories of my friends in the barracks, like, oh, they came in at like 3 a.m. and like checked your rooms and like you can't have too much beer and you can't do this and that. So we just got a house and they couldn't come over to the house, from what I understood. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Not bad. So you got out of there quick. How you know, some
Yeah.
people it is, man. I've seen people move back in the day. I don't know, they probably can't even do this shit anymore, but back in the day they used to make soldiers like move out of their rooms into like a parking spot at their room with all type of crazy hazing stuff, dude. They probably don't do that no more, man. They got hurt feelings reporting the military now and all this other stuff. But no, that's at least you seem like you made the best out of it for for what it was. I know Fort Sill is probably not the most appealing assignment. It's not Germany or Korea. I always heard that you work a lot, but like you said, you can party, you can go out, you can travel. I was in Germany. We worked a lot as being cooks or whatever. But like when we got off and went out, like the whole train was full of cooks. Like you had a whole like cooks went out deep, dude. Like we were going over taking, and it was fun. So I'll at least say that. But um, yeah, dude, it's
Actually,
German.
Germany was one of our duty stations. Like literally, as I was enlisting, you could go to Germany, and I was like, "This is sick. I'm gonna go." For some reason, I thought you could just like go. I was like, "I'm gonna go to Germany. I'm gonna go to Korea." And then like after AIT, they're like, "Ah, yeah, Germany's not a spot for us anymore."
They must have knew you were coming in, bro. Now you could probably go everywhere that you're out. Man, I don't know. Maybe it was just you. I'm surprised I didn't say like, hey, you could go and find somebody with the same rank as and trade them orders. They never told you that when you're in AIT. Like if you could find someone that would want Fort Sill and they had like Korea, you guys could swap orders.
Well, the thing about that is most people don't want Fort Sill, and the only people that really do,
That's
most of the
true,
people
though.
that
That's true.
mo- most of my unit was either people who are from Oklahoma, so that they could be next to
Oh,
their family, or people that were from Texas that couldn't get stationed in Texas. So that was it, dude. People were like, "Well,
yeah.
they're like Sooner Nation," and I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So,
Sooner Nation. Holy shit. That'd probably be cool
yeah.
though. I mean, how far was that? How far was that university from you? That's Oklahoma University. Was that close to you or like somewhere far off? I don't
It was
even
not
know.
anywhere near me. Yeah. I think it was, at least an hour. But,
Close in the army. That's close in the army, dude.
no, dude. Um, I will say, as
Yeah.
many bad memories, or 50% bad memories that I have, I do wish that I got the opportunity to not I wish that I had the opportunity to not judge my experience off of the first contract, because a lot of people say, like, you can't judge it off the first contract. But when that story I told you, where the when my first sergeant was like, "You're gonna spend the next 6 months with your old unit and then go," I was like, "Dude, I can't do it. I just spent
Yeah.
6 months away from this unit. I can't go back to my platoon sergeant again." Like,
No, he'll probably try to catch you back up for the 6 months you missed too, knowing how he was acting.
dude,
Damn, you like
he was not cool. They prolonged my promotion to specialist because I was literally on crutches, and they were like, "Oh, in order to promote you to specialist, we want you to do a PT test." And this was at month 24, right? I never had any Article 15s. I never did shit. Like I was always early. Um, they're like, "We want you to do a PT test." And I was like, I can't even walk, dude. Like, what are you talking about? And they gave this dude who was in 6 months less than me, they gave him an 18-month waiver. And I was livid. I'm not gonna, I don't want to curse, but I was mad,
you
dude,
good.
because because yeah, I never did anything wrong. Um, dude, he was like, he didn't say it, but he was like, "It's weird that you hurt your foot right before our unit's going." And I was like, "I'm not even obligated to go. I don't have enough time. Are you like insinuating that I broke my foot to avoid a non-combat deployment? Like, doesn't even make
You're
sense."
not trying to go Dubai Mall, you're trying to break your foot instead of going to the Burj Khalifa. It sounds about right.
Bro,
That's
I
fucking
was like,
fucked,
listen.
dude.
So I was like, dude, if I was going to like, I was like, I just volunteered for Afghanistan. Like, why do you think I'm trying to do that? And so yeah, he said that I had a talk with him, and I was like, it's not cool that you promoted this dude before me. And He was like, "Oh, they want you to do a PT test." And I was like, "I'm gonna go to IG because I have nothing else to lose." And I heard stories about people going to IG. It was like this weird, it was like this weird rumored thing where everyone I knew that went, they didn't get the result they wanted. It was like HR for corporate, where they were like, "I'm gonna go tell," but it's like, dude, every time I saw like the E6 they were talking to, the IG person, they were like boys with my first sergeant, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like this soldier just bitching that you like punched him in the face or something," and so I'm like, this is not gonna work. But I was like, I'm gonna front and like be like, I'm gonna go tell them that. You have no written documentation as to why I should not receive specialists at 24 months. And he was like, "All right, like, whoa, like, we'll put in the paperwork." It took them 3 months to do the paperwork. I didn't get specialist till 27 months. Um,
No back pay?
and but I think I got back pay.
Okay.
But dude, it wasn't even about the pay. Like, I didn't even. I just wanted specialists so bad, dude. Like, I thought it was cool. I didn't want to be like in the private ranks anymore. Um, yeah, it sucked.
Nah, I feel you, dude. That shit's weird though. It's a good old boys club sometimes, man. You try to go a step above, like you said, and it trickles back somehow when it's not even supposed to be, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
I feel
It,
you, dude. I feel you.
it was always the people too. The weird thing is I was noticing the people who were taking other routes, like going around command. It was always them on like the Friday extra detail we needed, or like, hey, we need you to come in on Sunday, or like staff duty on a Saturday. And it was like always those people, and I'm like starting to like put two and two together, and I was like, these dudes, senior leadership knows exactly who's saying what. So
There you go. So
yeah.
looking back on all your time in, what would you tell somebody that's in maybe in your shoes that was wanting to get to the do MLRS, go see the world, but get stuck at Fort Sill the whole time? Not or
Like
and really, I'm just fucking around. But no, in all seriousness, what would your advice be to someone that's leaving the military? Obviously, it seemed like you came out on the more successful end of getting your stuff documented, getting enrolled in school pretty much right away to get that ball rolling, get the money coming in, so you're not sitting with nothing. But looking back on all the stuff that you've done and went through, what would your advice be to someone that's leaving the service?
yeah, I would say even if you're going to be 50-50, because usually you're like 50-50 for the last 12 months, right? Plan like you're getting out. I cut every expense I possibly could to save everything because I was so afraid of like not having that guaranteed paycheck. Even though there's 10 trillion jobs out here, you can do something. Um, have somewhat of an idea. Like, you don't have to go to college, you don't have to do a trade, but do not be one of those veterans that doesn't use your GI Bill. It's one of it like when one of my buddies tell me that, they're like, I don't use it. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, go to school, go to carpentry school or something, go to HVAC, get your $2,000 a month for free. Um, you know, try to like, if you're single, try to shack up with some buddies to save money on rent because housing is insane right now. Document everything that happened to you, that you got hurt. Um, don't feel too macho to complain about it because you might need that extra 250 tax free if you get laid off or something. Um, but yeah, just plan ahead.
No, you're right though, dude. I mean, don't wait till the last minute and think all that money's gonna come in and everything's gonna be sweet and spend at the massage parlor or wherever you're gonna go out there and fulfill. But like, man, you can't do that. But so what's your plans for the writing? You want to what do you see yourself doing like in the future since you started tapping back in with the veterans and helping out, trying to share stories and share perspective? Like, where do you see yourself going with that?
Well, it's only been a couple months, but the writing portion, I just want to bring people's attention to it, right? So I view it as two aspects. For civilians who are reading my content, I want them to know that even though we have all these benefits, it's like a double-edged sword because they're not as good as you think they are, and they're not as easy to use as you think they are. Um, and there's a ton of things that should get fixed. And then for the veterans that are reading it, I want them to maybe think about some of their experiences differently, or maybe there's some benefit that I mentioned that you may never have heard of because I'm constantly hearing about new benefits. Um, so that's the writing aspect. I'm working on getting a website up. I eventually want to like sell merchandise and stuff, and then all the money that I raise, I want to donate to veteran organizations or like food, um, like around the holidays or something, or like you know, stuff like that.
Where can they find your articles now?
So my blog is called Service and Sacrifice. It's on a platform called Substack, Substack. So if you just Google Service and Sacrifice Substack, you'll find it. I'm on Twitter or X as Surfsack Blog, and then Service and Sacrifice on Instagram. Or you could just find me on like Facebook and add me. But yeah, I usually I pump out 1 to 2 articles a week, and I'm actually going to start something on every Sundays. I haven't thought of like a name yet, but it's just going to be like my experiences because right now my articles usually have a lot of research, and I reference a lot of like articles from the military, so people don't think I'm just making stuff up. But Sundays are just going to be like short little stories, like from beginning to end, kind of like what we're doing now. So you can just learn everything that I thought through those experiences if you're interested. I don't have any crazy stories, like, but it's just that some veterans just like to read other people's perspectives. So
What's one thing you miss about the military, minus the camaraderie? Because that's everyone's common denominator,
I
everyone's
know.
number one answer. What would you say it is?
I
Minus
would
serving,
say
minus K, and also minus KP duties, serving sausages to privates. What you got?
I would say, and this isn't meant to sound cocky at all, right? Because there's way more badasses in the military, but I would say just being able to do something that one so few people would be able to do, and then do something that so few people even want to do, right? Like they say you're the
True.
1% while you're in. So like to me that was a big deal because before then I never really did anything big. So yeah.
So when you go to AIT, do you get to shoot real rockets off?
No,
Too much money, right?
obviously too much money, dude. We
I got
shot metal telephone poles.
holy shit.
Yeah.
So I gotta. Do you know how much one of those rockets cost?
A real rocket?
Yeah.
It depends because if you look at the back of the MLRS, there's 6 tubes. So you can either fire 6 little ones or one big one. And they told us you can't tell from the backside if you're the enemy, like what's in there. I know it's millions though, right? If you're Googling it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. It says domestic cost of a M270 multiple launch rocket system, $2.3 million per one launcher, fiscal year
Yeah.
1990. That's 1990, dude. $4.6 million in 2022 per one launcher, and then it's 168,000 per one M31 GMLRS 2023 export cost. Damn, dude. So for the launcher, probably about $5 million, I guess, in 2024. I'm assuming something like
Yeah.
that.
The cool thing is when I was a specialist on rear D because everyone was deployed, I was filling like an E6 slot. So I was in charge of like 6 tracks, and
Yeah,
then the rear D units who were taking care of it. So that was pretty cool. Um, and then literally as I was getting out, like I saw one HIMARS. I got to check one out before I got out, and it was so cool, dude. Like the AC actually worked. The seats were comfy. It had like a seat here, a seat here, and then one like kind of in the back, like a captain's seat type thing. Um, they had tires with the run flat, so if you blow one, it just still keeps pumping. The
yeah.
track was just so inefficient. Like the track came off one time for us. We got stuck in mud, and dude, it was a bitch. Like
To
if
get it
that
back
track
on.
comes hours, dude. It took like 4 hours. Um, if that happens to you in like a combat zone, you need like tons of Humvees protecting you because we were just like in the mud, sledgehammering this track back on, and I was like, this sucks.
Damn. Yeah, that'd be wild. Then, fun fact, it says, however, the mystery remained because on April 27th, Lockheed Martin was awarded not to exceed $4.79 billion contract for 2 years of full rate GMLRS production. They do about 10,000 per year, which works out to average of $240,000 per rocket.
Yep. Yeah, so they just said all the money has to go to, actual supplies. So
There you go. That's wild, dude. I mean, I've only seen it on YouTube, like something like that blow off. So I mean, they're efficient, and when they get called into work, it's gonna make some type of noise. So, what else you got? What
yeah.
else you got before we close it up? You got anything that we maybe left off that you want to talk about, or that anything that
Hmm.
you got?
I do want to add about the rockets. One of the cool thing about the tracks is you can make the precision so accurate that you could fire a smaller rocket in like a neighborhood and just blow up one house and not damage the other, like if you had like a
Whoa.
specific target. Or you could blow up an entire grid square, which I'm not sure what like the radius of that is, but it's big. So uh, yeah, dude, but I don't know. I guess why, just like with my writing aspect, why do you do this?
I think it's because of really leaving the military and leaving on the wrong foot. Going through the military, going to the field at Fort Carson, till the damn near 2 or 3 weeks out of getting out of the army. It's funny that you say you broke your foot. I actually broke my foot in Afghanistan, and I got to Fort Carson, and I only had about 11 months left because I was in Germany, and I had Carson, and I got bone spur surgery. Long story short, I got off the TDY, and then pretty much all they did was train, 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 train. They didn't give a fuck about me leaving. No one ever asked me what I was going to do. Really, it's up to us to find out what it is we want to do. So for me, it was getting out the military the wrong way. I didn't, like I said, I didn't go to my VA appointment. I didn't have anyone in my ear telling me I should go. I was actually chaperoning two soldiers that were getting put out for being overweight. Like you said, this was 2015 around July because I had a little bit of what's that, terminal leave left, so I got out with like 68 days. But long story short, after I got myself out of the military, man, with 0%, then I got my girlfriend put in that pretty soon after I got to the military. I just got slapped in the face with life, dude, and found myself reaching back out to some of my friends that I served with and asking for help about what should I do. And I sort of went in the military to not have student that debt. That was something appealing to me because I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet. So I went through like 15 or 20 different jobs, and I was like, man, fuck this. I'm not working here. Nope, I'm not doing this. It's not like the military. It's not like you have to, when you're in the military, you're sticking it out till your contract's up for the most part. But just going through the mud and started working on my disability. I got to 30, I got to 60, I got to 80, I got to 100, and then like once I got a little bit financially free and I did some contracting, I just said I'm gonna start like a podcast up and share other people's stories and their wins and their losses and like change the narrative. Man, I mean, I know people that committed suicide. Maybe you do too. Other people are doing it every day that are veterans because they think they have no better chance in life, and that's bullshit because we should all have a better chance if we served. Not to say we need handouts or something like that, but at the same time, there's stuff in place and in play that veterans can benefit from. So I guess it's just the kind of like you said, at first didn't really want nothing to do with it because I was in a dark place for myself. But after I got out of that, and I just said I gotta give back and talk to other veterans. It's kind of like therapy. It's kind of like camaraderie. It's kind of like telling stories of each other's lives and success after the military, no matter what branch you're in. So that's kind of my why, I would say, to do what I can for anyone that wants to listen. I know a lot of people don't like to listen, dude. I look on YouTube and look at the stats, and a lot of people don't have an attention span anymore. I know I'm not Joe Rogan, and I know I'm not whoever, but for someone that does, if I can help just one person, dude, I guess that's what it's about. I'm not making money. I'm not looking to get rich off podcasting. I just do it because I like I like talking to other veterans, and
Mm.
I want to help somebody.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm sure you're not shocked by this, but as few people as you think don't want to watch, even fewer people like to read these days. So like it is not easy
Oh
to
yeah,
get people to read to read.
for
Um,
sure.
but one of my more popular articles, I think it's like 5 views away from being number one, is I wrote about the suicide, like military suicide, and the statistics are just astounding. Like it's so many people. You should check it out. Like I put a bunch of stats from the VA and like politicians in there, and honestly, dude, like the country is just not equipped to deal with what veterans are dealing with getting out. It's tough.
No, to touch on the thing about the VA, I have a great like primary care doctor, I feel like, but like someone said it the best, the VA is kind of like 10 years behind the power curve. Like they're
Mm.
undermanned usually.
Yeah, yeah,
They're overbooked, undermanned, probably underpaid. They just I mean, you see it with the claims. They had to outsource all these different third-party agencies that didn't probably have any VA background at all to
yeah,
and we're putting veterans claims in front of them. So it could go one of two ways. They could, look out for the veteran, or they could do like I did when I had a telehealth thing, come on 30 minutes late and act like a total bitch and then just hang up on my face. That was the CMP exam, dude. I had it was
yeah,
crazy, but I mean, these are the things that other veterans may be going through too. But you're right, dude. Like, I mean, something needs to be done, It's just too much. I mean, the homelessness is, like you said, the prices for homes nowadays, like hopefully veterans are taking advantage of their VA loans, but now the rates are high. Even though you can put no money down, you still have to be able to afford it. So, you got to really find your
yeah,
purpose. You got to find a job that you can enjoy doing. Cause I went through it, dude. I mean, I went through restaurant to kitchen. You can't do that for 12, 13, $14 an hour, dude, as a 28-year-old guy or girl or whatever, and think you're
yeah,
going to support a family, dude. No matter, even if you're living in Lawton, Oklahoma, you're not paying a rent for $14 an hour, dude. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to like think about. But hopefully there can be a change, dude. And I guess this all could play a fact of, hey, get your benefits, get what you deserve. A lot of people say that they don't deserve it, but not too many people leaving the military a millionaire, you know what I mean? Or else, yeah, sure, the tax free. Even if I was a millionaire, I'd still take tax free money, dude. If I was entitled to it, would you not? Like, come on now.
yeah, yeah. I always tell people like even if you don't want it or don't want to take it, like you could just like donate it to charity or like
Yeah,
do something.
your kids, your wife, your mom, your dad, your brother, a fun. Yeah, exactly. There's always something you could do. I mean,
Yeah,
but yeah, man, I'm glad you came on. I think we had some good conversation. The moral of the story: don't get stuck at Fort Sill, guys. If you want to travel, if you want to see stuff, Fort Sill is probably not the best place, but I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your stories, sharing what you're doing for veterans. I'm gonna check out some of your. I was googling it before we got on because I know you put it in your bio, but I have to dig a little bit deeper. I'll go on Substack, right? You said so. Service and sacrifice on Substack. I'm gonna look that up. And
yeah,
anyone needs help with their homework in English, my man Justin got you.
yeah, dude.
He
Thanks for
got
having
you.
me.
Nah, man, no problem. Hey, look forward to keeping in touch. And if you guys did make it this far, we appreciate y'all listening in, trying to share each other's stories. That way we can make a positive difference in the world of such darkness and like, whether it's hate, whether it's, the world's different, man. The world's different than it was 15 years ago. And hopefully veterans are taking heed to what's going on and just try to come together like we did in the military and make something happen in a positive way. So if you guys know any veterans, have them reach out to the real 1% one at gmail.com. Would love to have you on, a podcast episode 2 or 3, however many you want to share your story. But until next time, I hope you guys have a blessed evening. Thanks.